Our nation was under attack. Many were fearful, including President Roosevelt. That still doesn't justify interning over 100,000 Japanese American civilians. Not only was the internment of men, women, and children morally wrong, Executive Order 9066 also violated the Constitution. But before I explain how it violated the Constitution, I will tell you more about the internment camps. So it all started off when America became aware that Japan was planning an attack against us. We weren't sure where or when the attack would occur, but that attack would later be known as Pearl Harbor. So before that, in October 1941, the State Department sent a private investigator, Curtis B. Munson, to see what was going on out west with all the Japanese American communities. And in a confidential report, he said that the Japanese American possessed an extraordinary degree of loyalty to the United States. As the case was looked into further, they discovered that almost 100% of the Japanese American population was trustworthy. Despite the positive reports given about the Japanese American on the western coast and how they were very loyal, after we declared war on Japan, over 2,000 Japanese were arrested without explanation or without being charged for anything. After that, the FBI suspected many more people, and they took all people who were like organization officers, like such as Buddhists, priests, newspaper editors, anything like that, and that basically left teenagers, their mothers, and kids at home to fend for themselves. But soon after, all families would be taken, including young infants and old grandparents. But these people were taken away without notice, and most time didn't have enough time to pack up their stuff, or they weren't allowed to take their stuff. And people were transported to one of like 26 different internment camps or isolation camps that were scattered in 16 states and territories in Alaska. And during all this, the FBI kept everything on the down low and made it very secretive. But the worst part of all of this is that their living conditions weren't all that great. They did have governments that began to form inside the internment camps, but still the living conditions weren't great. People had to go to the bathroom in front of guards, etc. Many ask what was wrong with interning all these Japanese people. Well, it was wrong because in the Constitution, it says in Section 9, in Article 1, the privilege of the writ habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when the cases of rebellion or invasion the public safety may require it. And in this situation, we were invaded during Pearl Harbor, but in my opinion, our public safety wasn't in jeopardy, and all these Japanese people were not putting our public in jeopardy, which makes the internment of Japanese people unconstitutional. Despite our government not having the right to imprison a mass amount of Japanese Americans under the Constitution, it was also morally corrupt because interning babies and children is morally wrong because obviously they didn't participate in the bombing of Pearl Harbor or plan the bombing of Pearl Harbor. Also, uprooting Japanese American families who have lived here for centuries is not protecting America. And in my opinion, Executive Order 9066 was a violation of the Constitution and what is morally correct. In conclusion, no person of Japanese ancestry living in the United States was ever charged or convicted with espionage or sabotage. And numerous persons of non-Japanese ancestry were charged and convicted as agents for Japan. So, in conclusion, by FDR passing Executive Order 9066, he violated the Constitution under Article 1, Section 9, the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus.
Wish I